Hello, welcome to the chapter 4 of illegal arm trafficking from USA to Mexico. So, in this chapter, we will talk about notable cases and operation with the illegal arm trafficking. So, one of the most infamous US operation tied to the gun trafficking was the Operation Fast and Furious from 2009 to 2011, botched up them by the ATF's Phoenix office to identify cartel higher ups by allowing non-straw purchases to buy and transfer guns, and then tracking those guns. Over 18 months, suspect bought approximately 2,000 firearms, the kinds of AK 47, AR-15s, .50 rifles, etc. Under the ATF's surveillance, uh, but but agents did not interdict the weapons before they crossed into Mexico. The idea was the idea was to follow the guns to cartel leaders, but the ATF lost track of the vast majority. By early 2012, only about 710 of those Fast and Furious guns had been recovered. Many at violent crime scenes in Mexico and the US, tragically. Two rifles from the operation were found at the site of December 2010 shootout, where U.S. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry was killed. Um, Guns from Fast and Furious have since turned up in numerous cartel-related massacres and homicides in Mexico. Mexican officials said at least 150 of their citizens were killed or wounded by these walked guns. So the scandal revealed in 2011 that caused a rift between the countries. Mexican authorities were furious and they kept in the dark as US agents effectively armed the cartels in the name of a failed sting. Um, The operation was halted and became the subject of congressional investigations and an Inspector General report. So ultimately, led to personal changes at the ATF and a temporary chill on such passive strategies. Hmm, Fast and Furious stands as a cautionary case of good intentions that gone wrong, illustrating the perils of risky tactics in arms interdictions. Its legacy also included a positive that, under the spotlight of the scandal, ATF in 2011 implemented a new rule known as Demand Letter 3, requiring gun dealers in border states to report multiple sales of semi automatic rifles to the ATF to help flag straw buying sprees. Uh, Beyond Fast and Furious, many other operations highlight the cat and mouse nature of arms trafficking. In 2014, Operation Matador, an ice-led effort, boosted a ring moving guns from Texas to the Zetas cartel, seizing dozens of AR-15s and arresting a former U.S. Army soldier supplying military issue gear. In 2016, the Bravo Task Force intercepted a convoy in South Texas carrying grenades and grenade launchers bought from the US. Andaba con- um, the reason Wisconsin's CJNG case mentioned earlier that was another major win from to the US prosecutors that indicated over a dozen people in 3 states for trafficking military grade 50.50 caliber sniper rifles, machine guns to the CJNG. Uh, that case underscored that traffickers operate far beyond the border. A hoop in the Midwest was feeding one of the Mexico's deadliest cartels. Uh, it also showed the value of tracing 1.50 rifle recovery from a cartel hideout in Jalisco were traced back to Racine WI purchase, which unrelieved the whole network of armed trafficking. Mm. So, another notable incident occurring in 2020 when the Mexican police in Ciudad Juarez arrested a group with 26 American bound firearms, including an AK 47 style rifles inscribed with the logo of a Texas gun dealer. A discovery that led to the dealer's license being revoked. And in 2022, the Mexican police famously captured the son of Chapo Guzman after a battle in Sinaloa where the cartel gunmen, while US made Barrett .50 rifles and Belfell machine guns. The firepower was so extreme that Mexico Mexico deployed the Black Hawk helicopters for air support. Each of these episodes demonstrates both of the firepower trafficking weapons provide to criminal groups and the continued efforts of law enforcement to counter the trade. So, what is the impact on criminal organizations and drug market violence of the illegal arm trafficking? The steady flow of the U.S. firearms has significantly strengthened Mexican criminal organizations, enabling them to wage war against each other and the state on an unprecedented scale. So cartels today are armed like insurgents, militias, which has transformed the dynamics of the drug trade with access to assault weapons, grenade launchers, sniper rifles. Cartels can dominate territory and protect their drug trafficking operations by force. Well armed groups have been able to challenge Mexico's security forces head on. For instance, the hyper-violent Zetas, many ex-military themselves, utilized U.S. assault rifles in the late 2000s to recover and to overrun towns and outgun local police, accelerating the breakdown of order in northern Mexico. The Sinaloa cartel and its offshoots likewise rely on armaments smuggled from the US to maintain control of the drug corridors and fend off the rebels. Heavily armed hit squads, known as sicarios, allow cartels to carry out high impact attacks, such as ambushing military convoys or assassinating officials, so thereby undermining government authority in various regions. The The proliferation of firearms directly correlates with soaring violence. Mexico's homicide rate exploded around 49 per 100,000 inhabitants in 2007 to over 29 per 100,000 in recent years. One analysis estimated that if the 70% of Mexico's to I'm sorry, 24,000 gun homicides in 2019 involved U.S. sources gun. That means that US firearms were used to kill more people in Mexico that year than were murdered with guns in the entire United States. High power guns have emboldened cartels to commit atrocities. For example, the CJNG's firepower, including 50 .50 Colt rifles, enabled them to conduct multi-city terror campaigns like coordinate arson and shootings across Jalisco, Michoacan, and Guanajuato in May of 2015 after the failed El Mencho raid. Such narco-terrorist tactics, blocking highways with burning vehicles, shooting up police stations, are effective only because the cartel are so well armed. Regional drug markets in Mexico has been shaped by who has the guns. In places like Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, and Reynosa, Tamaulipas, battles between rival cartels, Sinaloa versus Juárez, cartel of Gold versus Zetas, turned those cities into war zones in the 2010s, which each side using American AR-15s and AK-47s to gain the upper hand. The state of Guerrero saw the rise of splinter gangs fighting over heroin production, again facilitated by assault rifles that let small groups intimidate entire village. In Michoacán, autodefensa or self-defense militias initially armed themselves with hunter rifles to push out cartels, but eventually cartels re-emerged with superior U.S. firearms to reclaim the lucrative methamphetamine territory. Perhaps no example is starker than Guanajuato in central Mexico. Historically peaceful, it became Mexico's most violent state by 2019 due to a turf war between the CJNG and the local cartel. CJNG pumped guns into the local cells, overwhelming their competitors. By 2020, Guanajuato was awash in AR-15s and AK-47s, fully cartel massacres a level of previously unseen there. The ATF data confirmed that guns trafficked from Texas were turning up in Guanajuato in significant numbers, illustrating how cartels' firepower expansion is not limited to border states but has spread internally along with the drug market expansion. Heavily armed cartels also erode the rule of law. Police in many Mexican municipalities are outgunned, and cartel gunmen with assault rifles and armor have overrun police stations or ambushed patrols, causing some local forces to disband out of fear. The military, which the government relies on to fight cartels, faces higher casualties when confronting cartels armed with .50 cal sniper rifles and machine guns. In one notorious 2019 incident in Culiacan, Sinaloa, cartel gunmen wielding U.S. assault weapons and the .50 caliber guns surrounding security forces and forced the government to release a capture a captured cartel leader. Such events underscore how U.S. firearms have empowered cartels to essentially challenge the state's monopoly on force. Criminal groups use their arsenals not only for firefights but also to enforce control over communities, extort business, ward drug production sites, and repel intervention. The net result is that regions under cartel influence suffer both high violence and weakened governance, which in turn enables the illicit drug trade and other crimes like fuel theft to flourish. There is also broader societal impact, the human toll and displacement. The constant gun violence has caused over 379,000 Mexicans to become internally displaced from their homes due to the conflict. And untold number to flees as refugees or asylum seekers. Over 2 million migrants transited Mexico in 2022, many citing unrelated gun violence by cartels as also factor driving them to north. In this way, the arms trafficking aggravates not just the drug trade, but also humanitarian crisis, sending waves of people to the U.S. border seeking escape from the cartel firepower. In summary, the infusion of the U.S. firearms has been a force multiplier for Mexico's cartel. Fueling her lately in turf was a naval expansion into new territories through intimidation and force, and making the drug trade more violent and destabilizing, as the U.S. Office Inspector General said before. In recent years, there has been a growing recognition on both sides of the border that combating arms trafficking requires joint effort and policy innovation. The US and Mexico has been working to reinvigorate cooperation through information sharing and synchronized enforcement actions. The ATF and Mexican FGR established a bilateral firearms trafficking task force, and mentioned Mexico has dramatically increased trace requests, helping U.S. agents map out the networks. Mexico's acceptance of U.S. assistance in training and equipment has improved its ability to track and prosecute gun smugglers inside Mexico. Mm, Policy-wise, Mexico has been punished the U.S. to do more domestically, for instance, advocating for the reinstatement of an assault weapons ban or other gun control measures that will cut off cartel access to certain firearms, while sweeping banning the U.S. remain political unlikely. Some incremental steps have occurred. The U.S. Department of Justice in 2023 published an extensive data on guns trafficked to Mexico after pressure from the NGOs and FOIA lawsuit. This transparency was applauded by Mexico as a sign of the U.S. is acknowledged the problem. Furthermore, the US government, for the first time, publicly identified the main sources, dates, and routes of trafficked guns in an official report. So, Mexican officials welcome this as it lends support to their cause for targeted measures in places like Arizona and Texas, where the bulk originated. There has also been a discussion of joint border enforcement teams, essentially binational interdiction squads that could operate in frontier zone to catch arms smugglers in real time, while sensitive pilot programs for shared intelligence checkpoints have been tested. The concept of treating cartels as terrorist organizations could, if pushed, are alter legal authorities and cooperation mechanisms, but Mexico has objected to any unilateral U.S. action on its soil. Instead, both governments under new leadership seem poised to continue a cooperative approach, combining Mexico's on-the-ground enforcement with the U.S. efforts to prosecute trafficking rings and curb sources.